Why farmers asked to legalize the MSP? अब MSP के लिए उन्होंने legalize करने के लिए मांगा ही क्यों?
One nation, one election will reduce the overall expenditure on the political process of Election Commission of India.
Success of Uttarakhand UCC will depend upon its ability to strike balance between promoting uniformity in personal laws,
legal recognition to children born out of voidable marriages as well as live-in relationships.
उपयुक्त प्रतिनिधियों को चुनने के उद्देश्य से एक निर्धारित अवधि के बाद चुनाव होते हैं.
Being such an integral part of Indian healthcare system, these ASHA workers are overworked, underpaid and on the edge of breakdown.
दरअसल ये 3 मिनट का जो प्रोग्राम है, इसके पीछे का मोटिव सिर्फ इतना है कि आपको पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट पे कुछ चुनाव करके, सब्जेक्ट का चुनाव करके उसमें कुछ अलग से कि ऐसा क्या बताना चाहिए को क्लबिस्ट करना या उसमें से चीज़ें छांटना, शॉर्टिंग करना और ज़्यादा प्रभावशाली तरीके से कैसे प्रेजेंट करना, इसकी सोच का विकास होना.
Very pleasant good morning everyone. Today I am Simran Rathore is here to present my views on Farmers Protest 2.0. Initially the protest had begun in 2020 against 3 laws at Delhi border that are Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce, the Farmers Agreement of Price Assurance and Farmer Service Act, the Essential Commodity Amendment Act, but they repealed in 2021. यानी ये जो 3 एक्ट्स के अगेंस्ट ये आपका 2020 में प्रोटेस्ट स्टार्ट हुआ था, लेकिन 2021 में वो रिपील कर दिया गया, यानी उसे स्टेप बैक ले लिया गया क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने एश्योर किया था कि विल लुक इनटू इट. वाइल अनदर मेन डिमांड टू लीगलाइज एमएसपी पुट ऑन होल्ड फॉर डिस्कशन. जो दूसरी मेन डिमांड थी वो थी टू लीगलाइज एमएसपी, मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस को लीगलाइज करना, और गवर्नमेंट ने उसको कहा गया कि वी विल पुट ऑन होल्ड, यानी हम उस पर डिस्कशन करें, कमेटी बनाई जाएगी और उस पर फिर हम डिस्कस करके उसका फर्दर आपका सोल्यूशन निकाला जाएगा. बट ऐसा नहीं हुआ. वाई फार्मर्स आस्क्ड टू लीगलाइज द एमएसपी? अब एमएसपी के लिए उन्होंने लीगलाइज करने के लिए मांगा ही क्यों? इसका कारण है, इट इज बिकॉज अकॉर्डिंग टू संता कुमार कमिटी in its report in 2015 stated that only 6% of MSP could be received by farmers, which directly mean that 94% of farmers in the country are deprived from the benefit of MSP. यानी ऐसा इसलिए माना गया है क्योंकि 2015 में एक कमेटी संता कुमार कमेटी ने ऐसा कहा गया था कि सिर्फ 6% फार्मर्स हैं जो MSP पे उनको प्रॉफिट मिलता है, यानी डायरेक्टली हम कह सकते हैं कि 94% फार्मर्स हैं जिनको प्रॉफिट नहीं होता है एमएसपी से. ऑन जुलाई 12, 2022 द सेंटर एस्टेब्लिश अ कमिटी ऑफ 29 एक्सपर्ट नेम गिवन टू इट्स द कमिटी ऑन एमएसपी विद फॉर्मर एग्रीकल्चर सेक्रेटरी संजय अग्रवाल एज इट्स चेयरमैन. तो उसके लिए 29 एक्सपर्ट की कमेटी बनाई गई और उस कमेटी का नाम दिया गया कमिटी ऑन एमएसपी. जो कि लीड कर रहे थे, जो चेयरमैन थे वो थे संजय अग्रवाल. But the committee did not have any representation from Punjab, Haryana, UP, and demand haven't been fulfilled yet. After inconclusive talk with Union Minister, farmer from Punjab, Haryana, and UP started the protest Delhi Chalo, demanding legal guarantee for the MSP. This protest led by 2 bodies, Kisan Mazdoor Morcha and Sanyukt Kisan Morcha. First demand was law guaranteeing MSP for crop based on स्वामीनाथन कमीशन रिकमेंडेशन. जो उनकी फर्स्ट डिमांड है कि एमएसपी को लीगलाइज करना, लेकिन ओनली रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ स्वामीनाथन कमीशन. अब स्वामीनाथन कमीशन की रिकमेंडेशन वाली ही क्यों एमएसपी लीगलाइज करनी है? क्योंकि उन्होंने एक फॉर्मूला दिया था, बिकॉज ही रिकमेंडेड अ फॉर्मूला दैट इज C2 + 50%. C2 मीन्स है कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, यानी जितना फर्टिलाइजर में और जितना भी कॉस्ट आ रहा है एक क्रॉप को लगाने में, प्लस उसमें 50% ऐड करके और एमएसपी में डाला जाए ताकि फार्मर्स को प्रॉफिट हो. और ये उन्होंने दिया था 2006 में. सो सेकेंड डिमांड वाज इंडिया मस्ट विड्रॉल मेंबरशिप फ्रॉम वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. जो फार्मर्स हैं वो अभी डिमांड कर रहे हैं, सेकंड डिमांड कर रहे हैं कि इंडिया जो वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से जो इंडिया की मेंबरशिप है वो विड्रॉल कर ली जाए. थर्ड डिमांड दे आर डिमांडिंग फॉर विड्रॉल ऑफ राइट to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement, Second Amendment Act 2015, that amend the Land Acquisition Act of 2013. यानी जो 2013 का एक्विजिशन एक्ट को वापस मांग की जा रही है कि 2015 का जो अमेंडमेंट है उसे हटा के वापस 13 का एक्ट लाया जाए. सम बिलीव्स दैट these protest is a political agenda and some supports farmers protest. However, the result or conclusion yet to know. Thank you.
Good morning all. One alone present here. My name is Vijay and my topic is One Nation One Election. One Nation One Election refers to the idea of holding simultaneous polls for state assemblies and the Lok Sabha instead of separate and continuous elections. One Nation One Election was the norm in India until 1967. Simultaneous elections were conducted for the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies in the year 1952, 1957, 1962 and 1967. Due to premature dissolution of some legislative assemblies, it led to the breakdown of the cycle of simultaneous elections in India. Last year, the Union government constituted a committee headed by former President of India Ram Nath Kovind to explore the possibility of one nation, one election. Some arguments in favor were reduction of financial burden. Continuous election cycles are financial burden on the state exchequer. One nation, one election will reduce the overall expenditure on the political process of Election Commission of India. More focus on governments. One nation, one election will ensure continuity of policies and programs of the central and state governments. Curb of black money. Elections involve considerable expenditure by prospective candidate, most of which is black money. One nation, one election will reduce the circulation of black money in the economy. Increase voter count. According to the law commission, simultaneous elections will increase voter turnout because it will be easier for people to cast many votes all at once. Some against in favor. Reduce accountability. Regular elections ensure that the government is under an obligation to listen to the will of people regularly. Critics argue that if the government is assured of a fixed term, it might lead to autocratic tendencies. Undermining of federal power. In recent years, issues affecting the states have gained political value, which is demonstrated with the more regional parties, forming state governments like DMK in Tamil Nadu, TDP in Andhra Pradesh, Biju Janata Dal in Odisha. Due to simultaneous elections, union elections might overshadow the state elections. Disadvantage for regional parties. Critics argue that simultaneous election would hamper the prospect of regional parties as national issues would dominate the political narrative instead of local issues. Regional parties will not be able to compete against national parties in both money and election strategies. Threat to internal security. Deployment of heavy security forces for simultaneous elections is a logistical challenge and might endanger the internal security in the country. One nation, one election will not only require significant constitutional and statutory amendments, it will also require significant consensus amongst the key stakeholders.
Good morning everyone, my name is Sonaksh Negi and today we are going to talk about Uniform Civil Code aka UCC. First of all, what is UCC? A Uniform Civil Code refers to a common law for personal matter such as marriage, inheritance, divorce, adoption, etc. that applies to all religious communities. It stems from Article 44, that is Directive Principle of State Policy. Recently, the Uttarakhand Assembly passed the Uttarakhand UCC 2024, becoming the first state in independent India to implement UCC. It applies to all Uttarakhand except the tribal community of state. Here are some key provisions of the bill. First of all, it talked about marriage. The bill mandates the compulsory registration of marriage within 60 days of solemnization. It applies to all residents whether marrying within or outside the state. Non-registration would be fined. Secondly, it touched upon live-in relationship. Any live-in relationship within the state's jurisdiction will have to be registered compulsory regardless of whether the concerned person are resident of Uttarakhand or not. Partner can terminate relationship only by submitting a formal statement to the same effect. The bill prohibits bigamy or polygamy, as Section 4 of the bill states that none of the parties of new marriage should have another spouse alive at the time of the marriage. The bill also gives legal recognition to children. The bill also changed some provision regarding inheritance. The bill ensured equal property right for son and daughter, including illegitimate children, adopted children, and those born out of surrogacy and assisted registered technology. In case of interstate succession where no will exists, the bill guarantees equal property right for the spouse, children, and parent departing from existing personal laws. So here were some of the key provision of the bill. Now let's talk about the positive benefits of the bill. It promotes gender equality by eliminating practices from personal laws regarding inheritance and maintenance. It simplifies the legal system, making it accessible and efficient. It could foster a sense of national unity by removing distinction based on religious personal laws. Now let's look on the other side, that is the potential negative effect of the bill. Some experts argue that the bill might violate constitutional right, particularly related to religious freedom and equality before law. It can escalate tension between different communities. The provision of mandatory registration of live-in relationship might infringe upon the right to privacy and right to live with dignity guaranteed under Article 21. We have looked on the both sides, and now this is how we should move forward. There should be a consultation with all the stakeholders, including religious communities, legal experts, and civil societies could help and resolve concern regarding the bill. Secondly, conducting public education campaign to inform the public about the benefits of the bill can help garner support for its implementation, and a mechanism should be established for monitoring its implementation and evaluating its impact on society. Lastly, the success of Uttarakhand UCC will depend upon its ability to strike balance between promoting uniformity in personal laws and respecting diverse cultural and religious identities of society. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aishwarya, and my topic is ASHA workers continue to face critical challenges of the informal employment sector. An accredited social health activist, or ASHA in short, is a community health worker employed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare as a part of India's National Rural Health Mission. They are often referred to as the last mile health soldiers of India. They act as a bridge between the economically deprived segments of the society and community health. They are the ones who enable access of the rural poor towards health services across various primary health centers. They counsel and advise them for taking secondary and tertiary health services as well. Yet, being such an integral part of Indian healthcare system, these ASHA workers are overworked, underpaid, and on the edge of breakdown. ASHA is engaged in the double burden of domestic chores while running around the community as health workers. This results in improper nutrition, inadequate sleep, and deprioritizing their own health. Apart from that, they are also at risk of anemia, malnutrition, and non-communicable diseases, as the ASHA work is more of a rigorous, full-time job where even the travel expenses need to be paid out of their own pocket. And travel has to be done even in the harsh climatic conditions, like rainy days, harsh sunny conditions, etc., without any provided safety. They even face economic, cultural, and gender-based violence. Economic, because they are paid very meager, and sometimes even delayed salaries, which is also why they are said to suffer economic violence. Cultural, because these women typically hail from marginalized sectors, like the scheduled castes and scheduled tribe communities, due to lack of employment opportunities, which makes them susceptible to caste-based violence in the villages. They are currently treated as ghost workers, as although they have been employed by the government, they are deemed as volunteers and don't get the merits of being government workers. So it can be said that ASHAs provide care, but are not cared for by anyone, not by the system in any way. It is only during the recent interim budget that the central government announced its decision to provide free health insurance cover for all ASHAs and Anganwadi workers and helpers under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. This is a welcome initiative taken by the government. Another good initiative that I would suggest that the government should take is to promote free, subsidized, and proper skill upgradation, education for the ASHA workers, as education can be used by them as a weapon against violence. That will also promote them to study further. In conclusion, I would like to say that if they are seen as warriors, they must also be treated by us as warriors. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to present my views on UCC, which recently is being imposed by Uttarakhand government. UCC is a proposal in India to formulate and implement personal laws of citizens which apply on all citizens equally or regardless of their religion, gender and sexual orientation. Key provisions. The key provisions for Hindus and Muslim in marriage inheritance. It applies to all residents of Uttarakhand except the tribal community of state. Recently, Uttarakhand Assembly passed the Uttarakhand UCC Bill 2024, becoming the first in independent India to implement the Uniform Civil Code. Besides Uttarakhand, only Goa has UCC, which was implemented by Portuguese in 1867 before independence. In stems for Article 44, Directive Principle of State Policy of the Constitution, which directs the state to endeavor to secure for the citizens of UCC throughout the territory of India. First of all, let's talk about marriage. The bill mandates the compulsory registration of marriage within 60 days of solemnization. Applies to all residents, whether marrying within or outside the state. Not registration would be fined. In case of marriage, Muslims, UCC brings the minimum age of marriage to 18 and 21 for Muslim women and men in time with Hindu Marriage Act 1955. POSCO, protection of children from sexual offences, preventing sexual activity between minors. In December 22nd, the National Commission for Women challenged in the Supreme Court the practicing of allowing minors to get marriage. Case is pending under Chief Justice D.Y. Chandra. Secondly, let's talk about live-in relationships. Any live-in relationship within the state jurisdiction will have to be registered compulsory, and regardless of whether the concerned persons are resident of Uttarakhand or not. Secondly, partner can terminate relationships only by submitting a formal statement to the same effect. Thirdly, prohibition of bigamy or polygamy. Section 4 of the UCC bill states that none of the parties of new members of new marriage should have another spouse alive at the time of marriage. Legal recognition of children. This bill has abolished the concept of illegitimate children. It extends legal recognition to children born out of voidable marriages as well as live-in relationships. Inheritance at last. The bill ensures equal property rights for sons and daughters, including illegitimate children, adopted children, and those born out of surrogacy or assisted reproductive technology. Pros of this UCC bill: provides equal status to all citizens, to promote gender parity. Third, to support the national integration. Fourth, to accommodate the aspirations of the young population. Fifth, practical difficulties due to the diversity in India. Sixth, to bypass the contentious issue of reform of existing personal laws. The negative side of this UCC bill is some experts argue that the bill violates constitutional rights, particularly related to freedom and equality before law, can escalate tensions between different communities. The provisions of mandatory registration of live-in relationships might infringe upon the right to privacy and right to live with dignity guaranteed under Article 21. The exemption of tribal communities from UCC raises question about inclusivity and equal treatment under law. Thank you.
गुड मॉर्निंग, माय नेम इज रुचि शर्मा। मैं आप लोग को चुनाव के बारे में बताना चाहती हूँ। भारत एक लोकतांत्रिक देश है। ऐसे देश में सरकार जनता के द्वारा चुनी जाती है। उपयुक्त प्रतिनिधियों को चुनने के उद्देश्य से एक निर्धारित अवधि के बाद चुनाव होते हैं। ये लोग सरकार चलाते हैं। भारतीयों को संसद तथा राज्य विधान मंडलों के चुनाव प्रत्येक 5 वर्ष पर होते हैं। विभिन्न स्थानीय निकायों में भी चुनाव होते हैं। हमारे देश में विभिन्न राजनीतिक दल भी होते हैं। वे अपने अपने सदस्यों को चुनते हैं। जो चुनाव लड़ते हैं ये उम्मीदवारों से भी मिलते हैं तथा उनकी समस्याओं के समाधान करने के लिए उनसे वादा भी करते हैं। सेमिनार तथा रैलियों की आयोजित करते हैं। लोग उन्हें सुनते हैं और निर्णय लेते हैं कि वे किस उम्मीदवारों के लिए मतदान करना चाहते हैं। कोई भी व्यक्ति जो 18 वर्ष से ऊपर की है उसे मतदान करने के अधिकार है। चुनाव से पहले तैयारियां भी की जाती हैं। मतदान केंद्र पर मतकोष्ठ बनाए जाते हैं। मतदान अहले सवेरे ही शुरू हो जाते हैं। पीठासीन अधिकारी एवं मतदान अधिकारी मतदान केंद्रों पर उपस्थित होते हैं। पूर्व में मतदान मतपत्र प्रणाली के द्वारा ही किया जाता है, किंतु हमारे पास इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ईवीएम मशीन भी है। इसने मतदान की अपेक्षाकृत इतना आसान या इतना तीव्र बना दिया है कि लोग कतारे में खड़े होकर भी चुनाव कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू।